I did enjoy the graphic tools and graphic organizers. I thought that was another excellent lesson. Again, pushing us outside of our comfort zone is what I feel like this class did for me. The concept map was such a good tool. I had a lot of students who needed help this particular season with their first research papers. And I realized they didn't even know how to create an outline. But what they did know how to do was draw bubbles and connect dots that way with their thoughts. So sometimes it's hard for me to read their bubbles. So I liked it because I could go from the bubbles, turn it over to the classic, outline structure, explain to them this is how you get the content and the organization for your paper. So that was excellent. And to know the the inspiration demo was free, it had me thinking I might purchase that in the future, the near future. Also, graphic tools. I knew Photoshop, but Dr. Lees had brought up the Sumo Paint, and I've been using that to help the students, quickly do some of the visual projects that I have. And I thought it was a really good medium. I thought it's been helpful, so I enjoyed that suggestion from the dialogue about, well, what if you want to have a software with this capability and I need something free for maybe my population of students that I'm dealing with. So it was a good idea. I liked, now the PowerPoint and multimedia, that was another jaw dropper for me, because I would have never thought that you could make PowerPoint more interactive. It always seems like the reading said, click and speak. That paradigm is what I grew up in. So seeing that, all right, I can stop the slide, or we can do different things with the Jeopardy. Like I have downloaded some of those Jeopardy ones, but there were other options. So it opened the door for me to create more of the SAT vocabulary things that I like to do, because that's where my kids need to increase in their comprehension as far as reading. I do need to still find another PowerPoint-like tool, I guess, another presentation tool. So I'm still open to ideas about it, even though on the web resources, on that link, I don't think I remember seeing something about that. The next thing we went through was the spreadsheet and database. And I honestly avoid things like databases and things like spreadsheets. I just felt that they were too technical. But then I felt that my job as maybe a tutor or a supplementary teacher is to take those harder materials and learn to create a way in which it doesn't seem so overwhelming or so scary or so technical, be a little bit more creative. And I will say I did use the Excel multiplication template that I created from the lesson on, using Excel. And I found it worked so much wonders for me, where now I don't have to explain why when positives and negatives are multiplied that you still get a negative. So just seeing it in a chart that no matter what number they put in, that would be the outcome regardless of anything. It really helped one of my students who had already failed algebra the first time. So now she was doing better with just the signs. I already had a theory of how I teach that, and then Excel just made that grow for her. So I was very thankful for that lesson, reading a paper. So then the test generation, I love that software, assessment software. Before, like I said, because I function in a school system, sometimes I substituted, or sometimes I was the lead teacher for some classes. I did find making tests to be very time consuming, like we had read about. But I always knew that I wanted to do different type of worksheets and different types of things in the same amount of time that I had. So I was normally doing them by hand or creating them or attempting to create them in Word. And so you can't really adjust it too much and do different things. So it really, really helped to know that this free, and I say free again because who could hate free? Free software to do these things and aid the teachers, help us correct faster. I used it with the tutoring, I used the assessments, because I realized they didn't know what made a good study habit or what didn't. So I saw there were rubrics. There was a 1 to 4, where it read, if you're reading, are you fidgeting? Are you paying attention to every paragraph? It gave them a structure for study skills, where I think we take sometimes, like I said, for granted that people know how to study. So that's when I realized I hated the most about teaching sometimes was the assessment time. And from the book, it really said, some teachers use testing time to kind of trick the students, to be like, do you really, really know this? Instead of giving them a medium to say, okay, I know you've read, I know you've studied and done homework, now it's time to demonstrate in your ways, not just with fill in the blank and matching and multiple choice. So perhaps you could design the test and have control over that. And then I'll see what the kids, like I said, think. When I wrote in response to someone's posting, I can see what the kids are deeming as important as they're studying their history or as they're studying their math. Which math vocab do they take with them every day? And because most of my children avoid word problems altogether. So when it's time for NJ Ask or the other standardized testing, they shy away from it. They shun from it because it's like, I can't break down these words. And it could be something like proportion, And we do have a technical definition of proportion. So you'll see the kids just kind of glance over it, just grab numbers and say, well, what do I do? Add them or subtract them, instead of really digesting what they read. So the test, assessment, and generation software was just key. And I think it just made so much sense to me, because I said, well, no wonder testing always has this heaviness to it if teachers really aren't taught what to look for. And as I've been training people in my organization, okay, well, you're saying, Susie doesn't know this. Is that what you're assessing? Are you assessing how she says it to you? Are you assessing, that she should include certain words in her repeating it back to you? What are we assessing? What do we want to demonstrate that the children learn? And so that's been clearing up a lot of confusion at work, where, somebody else is pretty much assessing behavior towards a subject, or someone else is looking for, content. Are we doing both? So I love that section. Those are just my thoughts about it. I mean, I know everyone had different ideas about what they thought, but I did take that away with me, and I have been using it. It's been working very well, because I'm going from district to district, doing different things, and across age levels. So I found that to be extra helpful. And matter of fact, I had a student come in who's doing a parenting class, and she wanted to know, well, how do I teach science to children? And she was creating an assignment where she wanted to teach about spring. So she said, she wanted the kids to draw something and using paint and colored pencils. And I said to her, well, your assignment is about a daycare. Let's think about how will you assess and know that kid knows that, If they don't have fine motor skills to hold a pencil, what will tell you that child knows it? And I mean, she came up with a brilliant lesson about spring, sewing, just paint on the hands, tapping a paper, and making that into flowers, adding stems and leaves. So when it was time for her to assess the student, she said, well, they can't say these words, but I'll know that they know it's spring once they say the word flowers come in spring, or say flowers, or, pick some spring colors which we will use in the paint. And I said, good, now you're learning and you're being a better teacher. You'll be able to equip, other teachers and approach your students in a respectful way, understandable way of their culture, their age group, their capabilities, they won't feel like failures if that's what they learned from the lesson. But if you were waiting for them to, know that, all right, springtime happens after this season, and after, that's too much for that age group. So I really enjoyed the assessment lesson. I think the Access database, again, I did that one already. Oh, the group project, what can I say? It was huge. But I enjoyed watching the whole process, from the inception of the ideas to the refining of the idea, the integration with the technology. Because I'm a very hands-on person, so it was easy to do the backup plan. But then I think in my mind I might have come up with something hands-on and then reverse the process and then use the technology to say, well, perhaps we can do this or we could do that. And I think my team worked together. We did fairly well. We worked together. We pulled our strengths at the end of the day. And I thought, that would be wonderful for schools to do. At the end of the day, take a topic, make it that thorough. We made sure there wasn't an area of etymology or word understanding and comprehension and building that we did not hit. I don't think so. I think, we only did 2 languages, but I was finding that my students couldn't spell, certain words outside of what they knew as an American word or an English word, and you'll find that pattern following those children in their readings, and you're kind of like trying to understand, well, why don't you know this word or why don't you know that word? But anyway, so however it breaks down, that has been a good lesson, and it's been helping me in my SAT sessions that I have here. So thank you.